One of the most frequently asked questions I receive is why during a lightsaber duel does one not simply use the Force to turn their opponent's lightsaber off? This would obviously be a very tactical and impressive feat, but why don't we see this more often? The answer actually is, we have seen it more than you would think. To start though, we must first understand how a lightsaber functions. A lightsaber is built to activate using pressure, and of course, after one switches the weapon on, this pressure lets the blade know it is in use, and thus activates. This is why when an individual drops their lightsaber, it deactivates due to the pressure no longer being present. However, on several occasions, we have seen Force users such as Darth Vader actually throw their lightsabers, so how is this possible? When a duelist throws their weapon, they are actually still utilizing the Force to make the pressure necessary to keep the blade activated. We have actually seen several times Force users activate their own weapons early using this same technique. On one occasion, as a Jedi Padawan, when Anakin was being mocked by two other Padawans, he used the Force to activate their lightsabers and levitate them in front of them in an attempt to intimidate them. But what about activating or deactivating an opponent's weapon during a lightsaber duel itself? Obi-Wan Kenobi at one point stated how difficult it is for a Force sensitive to integrate Force-based attacks into their lightsaber form, with this being the direct quote. "It's difficult to use the Force as a weapon while trying to use a lightsaber too. I need more practice." End quote. However, there was a lightsaber form that focused highly on integrating Force-based attacks with lightsaber combat. Form 6, Nyman, placed an emphasis on using the Force in conjunction with one's lightsaber sequences. However, when concerning this form, Force pushes and pulls were far more common than actually deactivating an opponent's lightsaber. Now let's look at actual examples of Force users deactivating their opponent's lightsabers during combat. On Mortis, we witnessed both the father and the son deactivate lightsabers with a wave of the hand, but seeing as these Force users are basically Force entities, it is not surprising they are capable of such feats. The biggest thing that allows for one to deactivate an opponent's lightsaber is the skill gap between two duelists. Only if one Force user highly outclasses the other is this possible. In Rebels, we saw Ahsoka catch and then deactivate the Seven Sisters' lightsaber using the Force. In the canon Ahsoka novel, we also saw her display something similar against another Inquisitor. Quote, "The creature stepped toward her, close enough for her to touch. His spinning lightsaber held off the attacks from the sides, but was vulnerable from the front. Just as she'd reached for her first crystal all those years ago, Ahsoka stretched out a hand. Sensing her intent at the last moment, the Inquisitor tried to disconnect his weapon and fight her with two blades instead of one. But it was spinning too quickly for him to do it. Ahsoka's hand landed almost gently on the cylindrical metal, and the Force was with her. The hilt cracked at her touch." End quote. However, the most impressive display of this ability was probably by Master Yoda. In the very first episode of the Clone Wars, not only does Yoda use the Force to deactivate both of Ventress's lightsabers, but also pulls them from her grasp, displaying his unquestionable superiority. But why doesn't this happen more often? Well, Force sensitives do have what's referred to as Force walls, or Force defenses, where they place up an invisible barrier using the Force to prevent such things from occurring. Only when an opponent's potential in the Force far outweighs another is this possible though, and requires near absolute concentration. Every single one of these displays, which are canon, occurred when the utilizer of the ability was not openly engaged in lightsaber combat. Being able to duel while simultaneously deactivating an opponent's lightsaber seems near impossible unless the skill gap is extremely significant. When Ahsoka did this in Rebels, she even required a brief moment to pause and truly feel the Force around her. This is not to say though it's impossible to perform this while in open combat, and I would actually venture a guess Vader would be quite good at it. My reason being that we have seen he can use the Force while still being engaged in a lightsaber duel, not even requiring physical motion to utilize the Force, although this is extremely difficult. However, as seen, Vader would much rather disarm an opponent through skill with the blade alone. The point is, this is possible, but highly dangerous, as dividing one's concentration between a Force-based assault as well as dueling almost always certainly spells disaster for the ill-prepared. A duelist would have to simultaneously keep pace with their opponent while breaking their Force defenses, then deactivate the lightsaber, all in conjunction with one another. In conclusion, as stated before, this is possible. However, it might even be safer to pull an opponent's lightsaber from their grasp altogether, rather than just deactivate it, which we have actually seen before. Even more cautious than that, it would be the wiser move to disarm them through superior swordsmanship, like we have seen with Darth Vader on several occasions. To me, turning an opponent's lightsaber off with the Force is the ultimate insult and sign of superiority. It shows them how utterly outclassed they are in every way, and has only been displayed by high-level Force users or Force users not currently engaged in duels. So hopefully that answers a question that has seemed to puzzle the fanbase for years now. But what do you think? Do you agree with this explanation, or do you prefer a different one? If you have any video suggestions you would like to see in the future, please do not hesitate to leave them in the comments below, as I go through them very often. If you enjoyed this video, could find the time, and feel it deserves it, I would really appreciate it if you could leave a like, as it helps me out a great deal. If you would like to interact with me directly, the best place to do so is on Twitter, @StupendousWave. If you haven't already, maybe consider subscribing, to ensure you stay up to date with everything Star Wars related, from news, theories, and explanation videos. Thanks so much as always for watching, may the Force be with you, and have a great day.